To some political stories. Despite the divisions within political camps in the People's Democratic Party, including calls for his sack, that's the national chairman of the party, Iyochayu, well, he's insisting that there is no crisis in the party and that the PDP is only strategizing for a favorable outcome in the 2023 general election. Well, Amaka here tells us more.
Well, we don't have crisis in PDP.
As the crisis in the People's Democratic Party lingers, some governors loyal to the River State Governor Nyesom Wike are said to have accompanied him to the French capital, Paris, for further deliberations and strategies. The governors of Oyo, Benue, Enugu, and Abia, after a brief meeting in Paris, moved to London, where their River State counterpart Nyesom Wike met with the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Bola Tinubu. This is coming close to 2 months after Governor Kayode Fayemi of Ekiti State led his colleagues from the APC, Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu and Ondo State Governor Rotimi Akeredolu to meet in Port Harcourt with Wike. And while the outcome of the meeting has yet to be made public, the leadership of the People's Democratic Party, while denying knowledge of the meeting between Wike and Tinubu, is insisting that there is no crisis in the PDP.
I'm very determined that we don't just win elections at the national level, but we win elections at all levels. House of Assembly, National Assembly, state governorship. We want to return PDP back to about 25 states or more, as we used to have. So the mood in the party is excellent.
I'm not aware of the meeting, because some of our strategies are ours. We don't have to divulge them to the media now, but certainly we are on course.
And when pushed further, one of them reiterated that the decision of the party remains supreme and their loyalty lies with the PDP's duly elected leadership.
We are loyal party members. We believe in the supremacy of the party. We believe in the sanctity of the party. And he has already told you that the mood is very excellent. And that is the way of coming together, uniting the party.
At a meeting of the PDP Reconciliation Committee in Port Harcourt last Friday, the Wike camp had insisted that the national chairman Iyochayu steps down, a request which is yet to receive a positive response from the National Working Committee, the National Executive Committee, or the Board of Trustees of the party. Since Governor Wike lost the PDP presidential primary to former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and didn't clinch the vice presidential nomination, he has had several meetings with members of other political parties like the APC and Labour Party. It remains to be seen if he will dump the PDP, a party he has been a member since 1998.
Well, joining us for more on these stories is the Rise News analyst, Dr. Sam Amadi. Always a pleasure to have you on the news with us. There's a lot to talk about. Let's talk about the PDP. Although Iyochayu says there's no crisis, we do have a report that the presidential candidate and the governor of Rivers may actually be meeting finally after several meetings with surrogates. What are we to expect from that meeting? Do you think it will hold in the first instance?
Well, it depends. If candidate Atiku travel the way to London, then probably there's a real meeting going to take place. But back to the question around crisis, maybe the chairman Iyochayu has the sense that when we look at this kind of conflicts, crisis, they look like routine now in Nigerian politics. In 2014,
that's become the normal.
We saw it happen 2014 to 2015 election, 2018, 2029 election, it happened. In fact, 14 APC, including the candidate now, flipped to PDP for the primaries. Then 2022, we've seen it. So this is now typical of Nigerian politics. Rudderless, confused, basic self-interest writ large. This is just like titans fighting at night, blindfolded, and everybody's talking about what is there for me. So yes, so it's no longer we are inured. It's no longer like a crisis. It's more like look back again to it's like deja vu. So in that sense, but clearly PDP has to head off a big challenge, which is what it is, that a major leader of the party, not just him with his
followers,
his surrogates now, if you like, are probably at a point where they're not fully invested in the party's fortune and need to turn around and line up. And so they're going to have this conversation maybe close to the next 1 week, depending on what happens. Because really, in negotiation, you look at what we call BATNA, best alternative to negotiation. And in this case now, what's the best alternative to not negotiating? So you flip to APC for Wike, you call the bluff of Wike for Atiku Group. Each of these options are not optimal to the both parties. So likely they'll be forced to come and bargain. The question then is some of the things they're putting out as strategic takeaway may be too difficult. I mean, the chairman is not going to give up that position because it has domino effect. All the NWC positions will probably reverse. And these officers, not the chairman, the secretary, everybody, fancy that it may not come back to them. So there's no guarantee. So this is going to make it a hard sell and a hard ball. Again, talking about maybe Atiku doing a one-term, which could be a good thing from a strategic point of view for everybody. But it's not something that you coerce out of precise parents. Right. And then they can also say that, you know, you will be the next guy. I mean, that's totally nonsensical. Because even if Atiku agrees to do one term, nothing forecloses any person. As a president, Atiku cannot foreclose primaries. And if fancy any governor, deputy governor, vice president, senate president, any of those guys can come up. So I think those who are leading these discussions to probably revise their scripts and create something that can create win-wins so that ultimately they're better off. Yeah.
Well, that's almost looking like a tall order, really, at the end of the day. But let's look at the fact that the chairman of the Board of Trustees, reacting to one of the demands that was alleged to have been made by the Wike camp, is that, you know what, it's unfair for the board chairman to be from the north. They have a chairman of the party who is from the north and also presidential candidate from the north. So looking at that demand, let's also look at Wike as a phenomenon right now, with all that we have seen concerning Nigerian politics. He definitely cannot be ignored, can he?
And they're not ignoring him. I mean, if he said, easy fry, they would have walked over, announced their campaign, roll out the campaign and say, damn you, what's up? So already, this period shows he's a big deal. That's why they're paying him attention. But again, if we come back to the issue about the unfairness of the structure it is now, it's really politicians maybe think after the game, what you call Monday morning quarterbacking. When Atiku was running with Wike, everybody knows that he could win. Wike could win. So which means Tambuwa could win. Now, any of those northern candidates win would leave us with a northern leadership. The party should have been very clear and say, look, the chairman of the party should go to X if we're going to zone. They didn't zone. What I think they should do is to recognize the implication of this post-election. That's what really makes sense. That we're going to go into election between October, by September 28 or thereabout, when this campaign starts. You're going to have, it's like a wheel, no-stop motion. You're going to move across the country for like 4 months and end with election. Really, is it really a reasonable time to talk about changing the guards? So, yes, it's lopsided because they caused it. If they had voted, they knew if Atiku won, you're going to have chairman, APC, not BOT. So those party leaders, delegates are party leaders, who made that vote, knew the consequence of that vote. That consequence is that the 3 major party positions will go to the north in the time being. So this Monday morning quarterbacking, waking up and saying, oh my gosh, is that what I did to myself? It's not enough to torpedo this train. So if I was a PDP member and a leader, I would say, look, a commitment that after election we revise all this. But at this point, if it wasn't a Wike who has the capacity to disrupt the game, if it was under another person, let's say from the south, let's say Anyim, let's say if PDP remained, I mean, people who don't have the capacity to disrupt the game that much, nobody will be talking about this ding-dong, he must move, shift, because he fancies himself as strong, and he's going to put, of course, a weak guy, Mimiko, being alleged to step in as chairman. So the whole game is around self-interest. At this point, yes, you need to balance it out. But the question is, there's no objective, unallied person who will argue that the best time to clear the deck and readjust for equity is close to the election, when the whole activity of the party is just campaign.
So basically, it's too late in the day to be crying foul.
They should have foreseen it. Everybody knows that if I took one, that's the outcome.
Okay, great. I mean, is this a one-man riot squad we're seeing with Wike? Are there other aggrieved PDP members you think may line up behind him? Just recently, again, we are seeing a Wike versus Lamido spat. I wonder what you think of that. And then I want to quickly move to other stories. For instance, President Muhammad Buhari saying, I would only campaign for APC candidates and not those in court. What does that mean? Is that a subtle threat to withdraw cases from court? What is the president really saying to his party members?
I think it's a statesmanly party leader position, official. And by the way, speaking through aides, some of the things aides speak are rightly attributed to president, but really may not convey a president's mind view. This is politics. So aides, yes, it's president speaking. But it does not foreclose that the president may have, we don't know what's happened, but the president ought to campaign for his party members.
Exactly.
And the president, we saw the last election where he says, vote for me, you guys settle your local issues. So would that mean that the president is not going to campaign for much people? He's going to do only presidential campaign, maybe. And then a few places and sit back. This guy is running out. So the new guys should take responsibility. But officially, what this tells people in PDP, people in other parties, NNPP, and of course, Labour Party, is that, look, you guys, if you think this president is out to tank this ship because of any other interest, this president is fully supporting APC. The right thing to say for a president. But, well, the intricacies are different. The dynamics will play out when we get to
Absolutely,
campaigns.
but we need to look at this statement. I like the fact that you've gone in that direction. What really necessitated the president to see a need to have such a statement issued? You know how they would say there's no smoke without fire.
Yeah, like I said, I mean,
does it show that there's some cracks in the APC that needs to be sorted?
It's been reported that the president is
time?
not fully, I mean, fully does not mean he's supporting anybody, but maybe not too enthusiastic about the ticket, reports, allegations. But again, the smoke for the fire is that people report or allege that somehow Mr. President may not have fully aligned with the outcome. We saw at the convention night, he didn't look quite happy, but does it matter? What matters is that this is APC candidate, the president's APC president. If on that day he's sleeping, the day of voting, if he doesn't vote, I'll be sleeping in Aso Rock. The fact is that the election should be free and fair, and Nigerian voters should decide who becomes the next president. But what he's doing is reassuring the party leaders and party members. And for me, if I'm a Tinubu campaign manager, I'll feel a little bit gung-ho. Oh yeah, the president is with us. Because in African politics, presidential power is tremendous, both to compel, to persuade, and sometimes to manipulate things. So this is also a good fillip to that campaign team. But it underscores that there could be some misgivings around our polity and around the issue that why the president has to, I mean, it's taken for granted that he should support his candidate. So to say, guys, I'm going to support my candidate means there could be some expectations, stories, allegations, or perceptions that this president is not fully on board. So the spokespersons, mind you, there's a difference between what the spokesperson says about the president and what the president says by himself, even though they are all attributed presidential speak, but essentially they have different levels of weight.
So we'll wait until the president speaks.
We'll take it as surface value.
Exactly, and hold on to it.
Okay, so it's, I mean, it's days, barely less than a month, about a month to the campaign's opening officially. And we are beginning to see a pattern here. The major four, some people would like to call them, the APC, the PDP, the Labour Party, and the NNPP. But when you hear a group such as the Iowa New Agenda, it's a new group of northern intellectuals and former lawmakers say, make a case for the North. We all know where the candidates of this major four have emerged from. Sure. So we can't really say it is Uhuru when you see a group like this saying power must remain in the North.
Well, you're going to see a lot of bargain. This is special interest. You know, some of them are seeking attention from their own parties. Some of them, the group seems to me like a group of guys who say, look, you know what, we have to negotiate everything. Their language slant looks like they are pro the candidate from the South. And they are saying, look, we are a major party. We are the major force. It's 75% they claim. So come to the table. Tell us what we get, apart from the VP we have. So everybody's going to negotiate. Some Eastern groups, some Western groups.
Well, we have two parties with Northern candidates.
So what they are saying, that their slant could be read to be a pro non-Northern candidate.
So that way, so this is more like a negotiating tool.
Absolutely,
really.
and these groups are, people come and claim they have the leading
75%
of the votes. They claim that 75% of the vote comes from the North. And again, they have put North together, not Central, not East.
Yeah, they call it just one North.
Which is a lie, because there's several dynamics that change the election that they don't align up to be one North. Politically, electorally, you don't have one North, just you don't have one South. I mean,
absolutely.
You can respect the differences.
Well, Dr. Sam Amadi, one thing we can know for a fact is that as we move closer to the elections, more of such groups will spring up and, of course, find a way to negotiate for their own best interest. Dr. Sam Amadi, our rights news analyst, thank you for joining us tonight on the program and, of course, for helping us unbundle all of this political intrigue.